what is the master plan and its strategy, and then the summary of its components. So why is needed? Because in Jordan we have been investing a lot in infrastructure, water infrastructure, trying to reduce non-revenue water. And for those who know the water sector, losses still continue to stay high, even with the large investment in infrastructures. We still have around 50% of losses. 10 years back, it was maybe even less, I would say. I was in the sector in 2007, we have 42%. Now it is 50%. So what's the problem? Still have, we done a lot of investment, rehabilitation and restructuring and expansion, but still the losses is high. And there was no holistic approach how to manage non-revenue water. EVPRING is trying to address the issue, but not really having a result. So when you look at the sector, there was no common approach or guide how to manage the non-revenue approach. And that's one of the key elements in this master plan. And where to start? It's a big problem with intermittent water supply, network issue, staff issue, resources issue. So how to do it, what to start, and how to make it feasible under intermittent water supply. And I will explain why it's difficult under intermittent water supply. So the master plan trying to establish a unified framework for the sector of Jordan on how to address the non-revenue water, with introducing best practices and the clarity on responsibility, accountability, and at the end, sustainable approach. So the idea of the master plan is to optimize the investment. We have a lot of donors investing in Jordan, but still we believe that the investment can be optimized to achieve the target of reducing non-revenue water. So that's where the master plan come off, and trying to clearly put a strategy on how to mitigate the challenges and overcome the pitfalls or unsuccessful stories happened before. So in brief, the master plan is a strategic level. So it's the starting point. It is only a strategic at the beginning, giving the overall approach on how to develop or handle the revenue master plan. It should be followed up by a detailed implementation and monitoring and evaluation, I would say, program which has the detailed planning, design for all the activities, the infrastructure and non-infrastructure activities. It's combinations of also operation and maintenance activities, not only doing infrastructure, and then do the executions and re-planning and evaluate. So the master plan, I would say, the starting point. There's a lot to do after the master plan. In the master plan, there were focus on several values that we need to address carefully. These are the 4 values that the master plan tried to handle through having reliable, let's say, features in terms of assets and reliable maintenance, making sure that you have a data quality. And this is a key thing actually in managing the revenue water. Not having a reliable data, you're not having a reliable decisions on how to address your priorities. So one of the key features of the master plan that you have to measure. If you don't measure, it's become difficult to improve. So that master plan, when my colleague explained the approach, we try to do top-down control of the system through proper and reliable information and operation conditions. Of course, you need to have the right staff to do the work. Eventually, the water sector is understaffed in terms of qualified people to do the holistic work on non-revenue water. It's not only the non-revenue unit in the utility, it's the whole utility businesses. It's the planning, the infrastructure planning and implementations, the customer service, the operational people, the maintenance people. So everyone has to clearly understand where there's rule come up. And of course, accountability through having the measurement and proper data at every step. If you don't have the data, you cannot create baselines, you cannot monitor them, you cannot bring accountability and see where we are. And the focus is how to improve it, introducing best practices, and then through auditing and then implementing until to get the targets. Sustainability is a key question also. Now, a lot of investment happens. Well, you start good infrastructure, then after a few years, what you designed for and you have to operation for, it doesn't work. deteriorated quickly. There was no sustainability after the infrastructure. So with the master plan trying to put uniform policies, process, procedures, and reporting and clarity on how you sustain the system. So that's very important. Doing the actions and the investment is, would say, maybe the most expensive at the beginning, but actually the less expensive and more important is to make it sustainable. So how this is the master plan also focusing on. And the other things is to have a holistic approach. It doesn't work to have only islands of isolated solution. It should look on the holistic approach, and it should be integrating the local conditions, particularly under the intermittent water supply, which is a big challenge, and to have a clear responsibility defined between the parties, and of course addressing at the end the customer needs and the technical solutions in the sector. Now, in brief, the current thinking, this is how I would say we summarized how the investment done in previously in the water sector. Major investment done in the meters, network, software, equipments, even some institutional support there and operational improvement, but does not really lead to the results. Still, no revenue reduction is an aim not achieved. There is no change. The new approach is focusing that investment has to be in line with sustainable practices. We have to have a clarity on how to do that. That's where we explain in the next slide with my colleague. So the sustained practices has to be introduced, where to invest, how to invest, and then how to monitor and inspect and check the causes, focus on priorities, and analyze them. So this is that's where you are to include internally more monitoring and auditing. And the key things, if you don't have really a proper monitoring system inside your system, you cannot know how you will target your non-revenue measures and actions. So in line with the investment, you have to have better monitoring and auditing internally in the system. Then you can see how you achieve the results. So to explain further, I will ask my colleague Mohammed Shafi'i to come and explain the concept in detail. Thanks.
The classifications you see is category A, B, C, and D. And to ensure this approach that Tamer talked about is sustainable and reliable and accountable and all of these good things, we have designed a certain progressive benchmark of what does it mean to be at level A, B, and C. What are these levels? And this is where we see utilities. We are level A. All of Jordan is level A. So if you're in category A, you'll have problematic intermittent supply, or you have incomplete metering of resources, your customer metering is not in order, your system is out of control. It's a combination of working on each water system and making sure that each water system passes a certain criteria of what does it mean to have evolved to the next level. Why did we need this approach? Because in many of these non-revenue water projects where we put millions of dollars of investments, you come out with a lot of infrastructure work, some training, but you cannot prove that you have moved forward. So each level, you have to prove, yes, I have better pressure conditions. Yes, I have completed the metering of all the resources. Yes, I have SCADA working, etc. And I have my billing system in order. Category C is where we want Jordan to reach very soon. You have continuous supply, all the resources are metered, SCADA is working, DMAs are functional, and the customer meters are accurate. You can find areas in each utility that are close to be level category A, B, and C, but missing a small portion in some cases, and in other cases missing a huge portion. Once we get there, we can move forward. So if we are in category A, we only apply, we focus on the actions to go to category B. We prove them. And we devise the capacity to sustain all the daily work. Same with category B to C that I will mention forward. This is a challenging category. We are moving from intermittent supply to continuous supply. How do we do this? Well, if by a step-by-step approach, we can achieve this in the right way, as we will explain further. And then we go to category D. This is the final. This is when we start investing in smart meters, in sub-DMA, optimize pressure to the highest degree. Now, it's easy to talk about continuous supply in Jordan. But what does it mean? We have a water system. It's out of control. The primary system is not guaranteed. We don't guarantee the wells, the resources. There's no SCADA, there's no control. We have the network, very high elevations, low pressure, bad supply, low elevations, very high pressure. They get all the water first. First, we need to reach category B in the system. We take control of the primary system, we make sure the SCADA is working, and we supply the utilities and WAJ with exactly what is needed. And there are specific objectives and moving away from what is the percentage of non-revenue water. We're saying exactly what is the percentage of SCADA applications and metering, how many reservoirs, and these are the benchmark that the auditor and the donor can track and make sure they finalize them 100%. Next step, we go to the DMAs. One by one, we take the distribution zone and install pressure monitoring. We fix the network hydraulics. Many of these networks are not hydraulically optimized. They are random networks. And then now we go to the DMAs. One by one, we convert them to 24/7. And each one has a specific design criteria. We say DMAs. Many of these donor projects, they make the work, they install these equipments, but the utility cannot report what is my minimum night flow, what is my average zone pressure. Because they cannot report, we cannot consider them that they have passed. So it takes infrastructure work, it takes operation, and it takes telemetry, reporting, monitoring, and the whole deal. What we hope to achieve in the end is a complete cycle of activities that start with assessment. We assess each primary system. What is the inflow? We don't have the information, that is the priority. Then after we assess, we prevent the problem. We can prevent losses through pressure control. We can then monitor. We monitor the flows, we monitor the pressure, we detect problems as soon as they occur. We have the capacity to do field inspections, we have the capacity to repair, and then every problem we face, we classify it on GIS, on the maintenance system, and we close this cycle. Same with the distribution networks, and same with the customer management. And these templates are now being developed, to be developed in this year, with working with the WAJ non-revenue water unit, working with the utilities as a cross-sectional actions. And the main difference we are making with this plan, besides targeting what is needed, besides targeting what the problem technically, is telling them what is expected to happen. What data am I supposed to see when I visit your utility as an auditor? There could be an auditor that goes and asks, show me the flows, show me the reports, show me the maps, and they should be available. Otherwise, these utilities are stuck in the level, and ideally should not be given any more funding until they move forward. And this is what we hope as a leverage by the donors in general to offer these utilities once such very clear plan and templates for reporting has been established. The plan contains some technical actions per system. Each primary distribution system has infrastructure components according to the level A, B, and C. And the utility has to be capacitated in terms of manpower and knowledge and vehicles and daily procedures that support each level of that they reach in the technical part. At the same time, we have cross-sector policies and standards and a responsibility framework that we are developing now. And as well as the central utility level, the systems, billing system, GIS, the business processes, because the water loss work does not work in isolation from the rest of the utility. We upgrade the maintenance, we upgrade the customer services to sustain these processes. And in the plan, each one is evaluated financially for each water utility in Jordan at a high level. Of course, careful financial assessment has to be done technically in terms of infrastructure and the software and the systems needed. But in general, we have done a financial assessment for each one of these items. And we can take one pilot area, we can demonstrate it in the coming year. We start by controlling the resources, etc., and then we go to the 24/7. And this is the challenge, is to show that we can do it in a small pilot. And in Jordan, we are tired of pilots. You know, these donors, they come and start DMA monitoring in an intermittent supply area. Of course, it will not produce any useful results. We do meter assessment, we do smart meters before reaching results. Hopefully, this pilot will provide some financial feasibility related to performance-based contracts. Instead of moving one DMA by the utility, which is often not feasible, let's do it a turnkey solution. How can we outsource this work? What is the responsibility from the utility side? And how do we know this utility on this network is ready for this transition? We are not preaching very high hopes. We are setting exactly the requirements and the expectations for a modest hope at each stage at a time. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. And I'm looking forward to the results of the piloting that you also already talked about to pilot this master plan. Now, our next talk is about demand management and tools for effective demand management. We have here the godfather of demand management, His Excellency Dr. Hazem al-Nasser, who was the first to address the importance of demand management together with the supply management. So here we have our expert from WMI, Noor Iso, who will talk about from the WMI side about the demand management, together with also our engineer from the sector, from MWI, from the Ministry of Water and Irrigation, Faten Shaban. So I will introduce you a bit. So you are a civil engineer with a subspecialty in water and environmental resources and environmental leadership certificate, experience